Welcome to today's podcast interview. I've brought on Linda Grizzly. Linda, welcome.
Thanks, Heather. I'm glad to be here. I'm so excited to talk to you about mindset and money and all the things that are going to make us think more positively about our lives and our financial situation.
Well, and I'm stoked to have you on and talking money mindset. This is a major pain point I see come across all of the time, which is so unfortunate, but it is most people living in lack, fear, limitation, and scarcity around money kind of have that poverty mindset. So I'd love for you, let's just start at the top. What does mindset mean to you in regards to money?
The mindset in regards to money means just thinking about money positively in all ways. So there's internal thoughts you have about money and there's external thoughts you have about money. And you want to be sure that all of those things that you're thinking about are positive, or if they're not, figure out how to reframe them. So the things we tell ourselves about money are, I'm not good with money, or I'm never going to be able to make that much money, or I'm not rich. And those are things that you tell yourself. But then things you talk about in money in general are like money is the root of all evil, or, rich people are greedy, or people just use money for bad things, or even um, like, giving yourself an excuse to be poor by saying that there's a reason for it because you don't want to be that person. And so all those things are things you're telling yourself externally, all play into it. So you want to figure out what those stories are you're telling yourself and then reframe them into a more positive mindset.
And obviously, awareness is the first step to creating change. But what you're talking about, our thoughts and beliefs about money, so much of it is unconscious. And on top of that, so much of it are other people's stories and beliefs we took on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. One of the biggest things that I find in working with my coaching clients is that they bring on the stories that they were given from the time that they grew up, their first stories with money. So how their parents reacted to money or whoever they lived with. If they were if they were living with people who were fighting over money, well, then money becomes something that you don't want to talk about. You don't want to talk about it because bad things are going to happen,
Yeah.
or it's just very negative, right? So they can avoid those conversations. Or if they grew up in a household where one person was, spending a lot of money on themselves, but not on their children, or there's all these different things that go into your mindset about money. And sometimes those come with you into your adulthood. A lot of times they do. Other times there's some occurrences where people go the exact opposite. So let's say they lived in a household where people were very frugal and always budgeting and never spending and just being really, really tight with the purse strings, right? And so then when they get older, they're like free and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to buy what I want. And then they get into trouble because then they're spending too much. So it's like one extreme to the other. So it's learning what you've been told, what you've learned on your own subconsciously, and figuring out how you're reacting to that as you get older.
I don't know why this is top of mind, but I want to share it. When I uncovered my money story, especially I come from, I worked for so long for a paycheck. So going from employee to entrepreneur was night and day because as an entrepreneur working for 100% commission, I could work, but I wasn't always getting paid for my labor. And that was a big thing to overcome. But something I just wrote down, growing up, my dad worked, mom was stay-at-home mom, but I remember she used to take us shopping and we had to hide the bags from dad. So I was taught at a young, like I had to hide things. And then I remember being a teenager making my own money. I would come home from shopping and have a show. I didn't want to hide it anymore. So I'm curious, your perception, if we're taught that at a young age, we have to hide it, put it away, can't be seen. What does that do to our mental programming?
Right, it's going to do a lot to your mental programming because it's going to do exactly what I said. One of two things: either make you always be hiding things, or make you go the opposite and be like, look what I bought, and think that you want to show everybody what you bought, right? And that's okay, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's finding that balance and making sure that you're aware of what your story is, so that you can make small changes to affect that story and have it have more positive outcomes.
Well, and I can even see it. So I'd love to talk, if we could talk more about conditioning and subconscious programming. I think it's easy from the outside, but as an example, I can see one of my cousins who came from, there was never enough money. So now she's grown up. They have 5 children, and I mean, never enough money. So again, we're just repeating patterns of behavior. How do we become aware of them and break free of them? Since money, if we think of it as a resource, money is unlimited, right? We're not going to other planets to get money. It's all here now.
It is. It's all here now. And it's like you said, it's a resource. So if you think of it as this flowing thing that's around you, so money's flowing in and out of your bank account every day, of stores every day, of everything everywhere. It's just flowing constantly. So it's this resource around you that just continues to flow. Say the same as oxygen or water, right? It's flowing around you. And if you have the mindset that you just need to figure out how to make that the flow come into you more, right? Then you're thinking more positively about it. It's always going to be there. You just need to figure out how to make that flow work better for you. And in living in a scarcity mindset, like you always have like this I don't necessarily want to call it a fear, but it's always like a striving or a grasping or like trying to get more. And if you think about the energy that you're putting out when you're having those thoughts and feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough, the vibration is not a positive one. So a lot to do with mindset is all about like positive mindset, but it's all about positive vibrations too, and making sure that you're in that healthy place. So I do a lot of I have my clients do a lot of journaling and also like either self meditation or guided meditation to reset their vibration in their body to a positive one around money and around whatever. Because when you're going through that stressful time and you're creating those negative vibes, then you're just emanating that, and it's going to push all the other positive things away. So you want to start bringing it back to positivity so you can draw the more positive things in.
What I love that you're talking about is that energy frequency, our personal vibration, and how that relates to the number in our bank account. On that note, though, if somebody is used to, and again, they might be unaware of this, but if they're used to fear, stress, worry, lack about money, and we're telling them, just change your vibe, just be more positive, right? That's going to be such a quantum leap for them. So, like, I know you have a 5-step process. I don't know if we want to talk about that now or later, but I think the whole idea here is that we have unlimited resource available to us. When you change your thoughts, emotions, and vibrations around money, that is how we create more of what we seek.
Yeah, and I will go into the 5 steps now, because that first step is actually letting go of your negative money stories. And that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So in my 5 steps, I'm not saying that you're changing your mindset and being positive and having positive vibrations and thinking good about money is going to make all the difference in the world. There's a lot more to it, but the very first part is letting go of your negative money stories. And that's the things that you're telling yourself, the things that about yourself and about the world around you, the vibrations that you're putting out, and if there's any negative energies, getting rid of those negative energies by reframing them into something more positive. So that's number one. But like I said, it's not just the mindset part. So when we talk about money mindset, there's a lot more to me that goes into it. So step number 2 then is getting organized. So making sure that you understand where your money is and what it's doing and what its purpose is, because your money has a purpose. Your money isn't, this money that's in your checking account. Maybe it is to buy food, clothing, shelter, and all those things that you need, utilities to get by. But your money also is for you to do fun things or save for the future, or even have like always have an emergency fund, right? That's one of the top things that we start doing when we start planning, is having an emergency fund. So, but thinking about what the purpose is of the money that you have, and maybe even having separate bank accounts for different things. and starting to realize like what it really means and paying attention to it. And before I go to step number 3, I want to pass it over back to you, Heather, to see if you have comments on getting organized with your money.
Yes, well, I don't know how much I'd want to share personally, but here's one thing I want to bring to mind. Semantics, like the words we use, are very powerful. And as an example, the word budget to me is very constrictive. Years ago, I heard somebody call it a spending plan, and I was like, that's fun. So again, use the words matter. So I don't know if you have different terms, but budget does not work for me. Spending plan does. And what you're talking about, I don't even like Excel. Like I'm not left-brained in that manner, but I did it. I have, and I can see my money, and I needed to create that clarity because out of sight, out of mind, I didn't really, like I never really spent more than I had, but I didn't really know where it was going and how much I was spending where. So I wanted to create clarity around it. And now I have every single box, utilities, mortgage, HOA. Like I see how and where I'm spending my money, what's coming in and what's going out. That helped create a lot of like my own money mindset freedom and liberation because I felt more in control.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so there's lots of great apps out there that you can use for that too, if you're not a spreadsheet person. But then also there's financial coaches and financial planners that can help you in different levels of that. So if it's not something that you want to do, you can hire somebody else to do it for you. But the term that I like to use instead of budgeting is cash flow.
Mm,
And cash flow seems to work a lot better for creative minds because it's flow, right? It's the stuff that's coming and going,
yeah.
and it's just coming in and out. And again, it has to do with it, money as a resource, and being that like it's coming and going from all places all around you all the time. It's coming and going from your account too. But you want that flow to be more positive than negative. And so if you think about it that way, instead of saying budget, because you're right, a budget is constrictive in the sense that you're saying like, okay, I only have $200 to spend on groceries this month. How am I going to make that work? You know, you're like, it's stressful, and there's that negative energy again. So you don't want it to be like that. You want it to be, okay, my flow this month is this. And then, you know, you just want to keep, you know, changing that flow so that it's more positive than negative and figuring that out. So that's the term I like to use.
On this idea of flow, I think especially in the Western culture, we have created a paradigm. You have to hustle and grind. You have to push really hard. You have to work really hard to earn money. And so I like to think about it like a hose or even a faucet. The amount that you allow is the amount that flows into your life. And I think most people are white knuckling, constricting their flow. I don't believe it's more about you have to work harder, struggle, and effort, but I think it's about releasing those energetic blocks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It's also, if you think about like working hard, there are so many people out there that go with the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, which is like you spend like 20% of your time is spent on the things that actually make you money, and 80% of it is spent on a bunch of other stuff. So if you can unload that other stuff onto somebody else, especially if you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur, if you can find somebody to be an assistant to help you with that other stuff, it gives you more time to work on the money making things. And so not necessarily in like a salaried position, but maybe, right? Maybe you have things that are taking your time away from your self-care time that maybe you could hire somebody to do. And it seems like it's the opposite of what you would think someone would be telling you, to spend more money, but you do sometimes have to spend more money to make more money because you want to focus on that 20% that's making you the money and not be so grinding constantly because you're trying to do the whole 100% of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. All right, what's step 3?
Step 3 is to make small adjustments. So it has to do with the idea that you don't want to go cold turkey on something and be like, okay, I'm creating this budget and I'm just going to stick with it. And because you want to set yourself up for success. And if you start changing too much too quickly, then it's not going to be sustainable. You're going to give up. You're going to feel like you failed, and you're not going to get progress. So small adjustments. So that might mean that, you know, instead of like when you're having a bad day and you start putting stuff in your shopping cart on whatever your app is, whatever happens to be, I usually tend to pick on Amazon. Sorry, Amazon. So maybe you set a rule for yourself and you say, okay, when I do that, I'm going to put it all into a wish list. And I'm going to, I'm going to go back and look at the wish list once a week and pick the things that I really need. Like, do I really need all this stuff? Or maybe you have like a 24-hour rule. I'm going to put it in my cart. I'm going to wait 24 hours. And if I still want to buy this stuff 24 hours from now, then I'll buy it. Whatever that rule is, whatever works for you, that's a small adjustment, right? You're still getting that little rush when you are putting the stuff in your cart. You're just not pushing go, right? You're just not saying like, buy now. So you're not actually spending the money, but you can still get the satisfaction of like looking through the things that you might want. That's just a common thing that I find that people do, like when they've had a stressful day or whatever, or they're just like killing time, like they like to shop and do stuff. So that's an example of one of the things you can do to make just a small adjustment. That's probably going to make a big difference in how much money is coming out of your cash flow.
Well, and even that alone, that small thing is about being more proactive than reactive. Power of
Yeah.
the pause. Put it in the cart so you're giving yourself the freedom and the whatever, but then think about
Yeah.
it. Love that.
Yeah. So that's the make small adjustments. The number 4 is to set realistic goals. So, and when I say realistic goals, I don't have a problem with setting a huge goal. I had a client ask me the other day, she said, my goal was to have $10 million in my bank account. And everybody's telling me I'm crazy and that I should never set that as a goal. And I said, do you believe that you can make that much money? And she said, yes. I said, if you believe it, then it's a realistic goal for you. Now, I'm not going to tell you what time frame you can do it in, but you can take small steps every single day to get towards that. And maybe you have benchmarks in between. Like maybe your goal is, I want to make $100,000 this year. And out of that $100,000, I want to save this much money towards that 10 million that I want to see in my bank account. So to me, the realistic goal is taking steps every day towards it. So this is that part where I'm like, it's not just about your mindset. You have to do the work. So what are you doing every single day to make steps towards that? And realistic to me means, and some people might be saying like right now, like 10 million is a completely unrealistic number. If you truly believe it and you can have that vibration that it's there and you put your mind to it, I believe that you can do it. Are you going to do it? I don't know if you're going to do it. But if you can believe it, I can believe it because it's been done. You can look up stories of people all the time that have like found overnight success in something. I think there's a story about the actor Jim Carrey, and I don't know if it's true or not,
Yep.
but it's a story about when he was younger, how he grew up poor and he wrote himself a check for whatever 15 million. I don't remember what it
It
was.
was 10 mil.
It was, so it's the same number I'm talking about. And he put it in his wallet when he was a kid. And then like he went through life and eventually he got that check for the $10 million for something that he did. I think it might have been for Dumb and Dumber. And I don't know if the story is true or not, but it's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Some people might have told that kid that grew up poor that used to sit, and dream about being this big actor someday, like the chances of you doing that are slim to none, because really they probably were slim to none, but he had his mindset on it and he did it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm talking about. Like, no goal is unrealistic as long as you can believe it. So, but do set realistic goals that you can believe, because if you don't believe it, you're not going to have the mindset, you're not going to have the positive vibration around it. And so I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, but one more thing I want to say is I've had people set goals that they thought were realistic. And then by the time we go through our coaching sessions, they have already changed their goal to higher because they just believe it even more now. So they haven't even gotten to the amount that they wanted to save or that they wanted to earn or whatever it was. But they're like, oh, I believe I can do even better than that now. And so they're upping their goal before they've even made it.
So what you're emphasizing, and thank you so much for really defining realistic, what realistic means to you, because I love the idea. Don't let other people's limiting beliefs limit you. So let me give an example. I did a money mindset masterclass some time ago, and I had many people on the call, and I asked one question, many people on the call, and all I asked was, we were going through like a money manifestation experiment. I love teaching that stuff because money's so tangible and practical, because I want people to understand the power of their thoughts. But the question I asked, I think it was in 30 days. It might have been a shorter period, but it doesn't matter. It was a set time. And I asked, how much do you think you can manifest or whatever in this time? And on the call, there was from like 1,500 to 150 grand. And I asked the same question to those people. So even look at that example, our different belief systems, what people believe is possible for them. So I love that. Like create that big, hairy, audacious goal, 10 mil. And look, if we think about it today, 10 million is honestly not that much money. It's really not. It's really not. And I'll just give an example. A client of mine, he's got a really great money mindset, and he had in 1 month 500, and he's a speaker, he's a trainer, and he had $500,000 of new opportunities come to him in a 30-day period. 500 grand in 30 days. So now his limit, like his belief system is through the roof because he's like, man, this money game, and if you think about it like a game, like it really is so easy. So thank you for studying that. Whatever you believe to be true is true for you.
Yeah. And then the fifth step is take care of your relationship with money. So it's an ongoing thing. Think of it as any marriage, any relationship that you have. Like you have to work at it, and you're gonna go have your ups and downs. You're gonna have times when you get frustrated, and times when you're spending more than you should, or times when you're not paying attention to things. But it's important to get back on track and reset yourself every once in a while if you feel that way. But just taking care of it and paying attention to it, because our minds go where our attention goes. So, and our energy goes where our attention goes. So if you stop paying attention to it, you stop staying organized, let's say, or you stop working on your negative mindsets and resetting them, letting go of your negative stories, then you're gonna end up like falling back. So take care of it. Work with a coach, a planner, whatever you need to do to get that organized if you're feeling like you're having trouble organizing yourself. And obviously you can work with the coach on mindset too. Wherever you feel like you need help, don't be afraid to ask. And think about that 80-20 too. Spend your time on the things that are going to make you progress and make you money and improve your life, and try to let go of the other 80% by delegating it out or whatever you need to do.
Here's what I'd love to know. What are some client success stories? Can you give some real world examples, or maybe even your own personal one? Somebody going from that lack, scarcity, poverty, just getting by, to shifting and doing these 5 steps or doing this work. What have they created since?
Yeah. So I usually give stories about clients, but I'm actually going to tell you about a little bit about my story.
Yeah.
So, which is how I came to do this money mindset work, because I shifted my money mindset without knowing that that's what I was doing. I came from, I grew up in, I would say, scarcity, like lower middle class household. My parents lived paycheck to paycheck. They didn't save any money. I was never really taught to save money. They never really talked about money. And then I ended up, I had a lot of life before me, and I saw a lot of different types of mindsets and a lot of different scenarios around money, some very poor times, some very affluent times, whatever. But I came to a point where I knew in my life, I had just gone through a divorce, and I was working in a job that I loved the job, but it was a really toxic environment. And I knew I needed to make a drastic change, but I didn't know what to do. And I literally quit my job, jumped off a cliff, like quit my job, and cashed in a small retirement fund and took out a home equity loan and went back to school. So I didn't get my bachelor's degree till I was 49. And so I spent money. I spent a lot of money going to school and like going backwards in order to go forwards. And this is kind of like that 80-20 rule. And like when I was saying, like, sometimes you have to spend money to make money. And that was a big flip for me. And I did a career change, and then I got a master's degree at 52. And, now I've got my own business, but I have like headhunters calling me, and who knows where I'm going to be soon. But it's like, once I shifted that mindset and I was like, I know I need to make a big change. And I just started doing the things that I was doing. It all started to come together. And I went on really this external growth journey through school, but also this internal growth journey, just learning about mindset, understanding and uncovering like what was inside of me and what might have been holding me back. And that was really the most drastic change, was that internal work. And that's what got me to start doing the money mindset coaching or mentoring, is because I want to help other people go through that in a more structured, organized way. So that they don't have to like figure it all out the hard way like I did. But
I think
yeah,
that's what any coach is doing, right? You turn your mess into a message and you want to help fast track somebody else's uh path.
yeah,
Now, here's what I want to ask you. You emphasized, and I couldn't agree more, the idea of these internal shifts, but it might take some humility for someone. I heard this once before, that the amount in your bank account is a direct reflection of your money mindset or like your internal set point, which goes along with like your self-worth and money capacity, money containers. So what can you explain what these internal shifts were?
sure. And I'm not sure if I fully agree with that statement that you made, but I do see where they would be coming from saying that. Um, because I do think there's some people who just are like, yeah, everything's okay, and they're not really like, they just think the money is going to be there, but then they're not really paying attention to it. So I think there's all different kinds of money mindset there. But the internal shifts that I went through were, as I was going to school and taking classes, a friend of mine invited me to go to a mastermind of one of John Maxwell's leadership books. And we were doing like, basically, it was like a book club, but it was guided by a John Maxwell coach or John Maxwell team member. And we were going through the book and talking about the different lessons that are in there. And there was one particular lesson that stands out to me, and it was called the law of the lid. And the law of the lid has to do with like having a lid on yourself, and like knowing that like you're not ever going to like get out that lid. It has to do with, I think they put like bugs in a jar, and the bugs eventually, like, they kept trying to get out, and eventually they stopped trying to get out, and then you would take the lid off and they still wouldn't get out of the jar because they just assumed the lid was there. And that's all about mindset, which is what we're talking about now. But to me, what it said to me was not about my mindset necessarily, but it opened my eyes up to me about the mindset of the people that I was surrounded by. And that my success was in my job that I had at the time was really being driven by the people around me that had lids. And I didn't have the lid, and I kept trying to jump out of the jar, and they kept pushing me back down. And so that was like my eye-opening moment. And it wasn't even the lesson they were trying to teach, but I took that lesson and I was like, this is how this lesson applies to me. And I get it now. I totally get it now. And it just really opened my eyes. And I was like, I need to find people with, without a lid. And that's where I started like my real growth, is how do I find other people that are ready to grow like I am?
Well, and what you're talking about is environment. I think I've heard the saying, it's something along the lines of, if you're hanging out with five broke people, you will be the sixth. And if you hang out with people who are making money with other entrepreneurs and business owners, the conversations are different.
Oh, they're totally different. Yeah.
The lifestyles are different, their habits are different. And now I'd love to ask you, what are some of your daily rituals and practices, not only mindset, but also lifestyle in this capacity?
So daily rituals, I do like a self meditation every morning when I get up and every night when I go to bed. Um, and you can call it some sort of manifesting if you want, but it's really resetting my vibration positively around my goals and the things that I want, picturing myself achieving them, feeling the feeling that I would feel if I had reached that goal. It's really just mainly just reset my internal vibration when every day when I wake up and every night when I go to bed. That's one of the rituals that I have. The other thing is that I truly believe in setting your goal and taking steps towards it every single day, or towards them every single day. So even on days when, like, if I'm having a bad day or whatever, you just don't feel like doing anything, which really doesn't usually happen to me, but I but you're always doing something. Like, send one email. Like, if you have a new goal and you haven't even started yet, send one email, make one connection, connect with somebody on LinkedIn, or reach out to somebody via email, or just keep doing at least one thing every day towards that goal. And usually for me, it's a lot more than one, but the idea is that you don't let a day go by when that thing is not top of mind for you.
Well, and the reason I love asking that is I feel, well, through my experience and through I've more than 600 podcasts, I always ask that question because people who have quote success or fulfillment in life are very intentional with how they're spending their time. They have clear direction, they have focus. But something I'd love to expand on because I love this principle, it's that feeling as if. Can we talk about how important it is to embody that abundance, freedom, whatever that end result you believe money will give you? Why is that so important?
Because it allows you to believe that it can happen, and you know the feeling that is there when you get it, and it's surrounding yourself with that. And it actually goes back to all the way back to and probably even before then, but Napoleon Hill's book Think and Grow Rich. That's what it's about. That's honestly what that book is about. It's about um, all the things I'm talking about today, which I didn't even know was hadn't even read that book until later, but it's like all kind of the same things that I'm talking about. So it's been around for a long time. And you could even think of the book The Secret. The Secret's all just about being positive and staying positive. And there's a little bit of manifestation in both of those books, but it's really about just bringing all the pieces together. So being mindful, staying positive, and doing the work, because you do have to do the work too. It's not like you can just walk around being like, oh, everything's dandy and everything's great and everything's perfect and I have this positive mindset and things are just going to come my way. No, you actually have to do work about it too. You can't just have the mindset only. You need to do the work.
Well, and what's coming to mind that I just wrote down is the idea of getting clear on the life that you want to live. Because maybe for your lifestyle, it might only be $1 million, right? Somebody
Right.
else's lifestyle could be 10 mil, 100 mil. It doesn't matter. But if so, for example, my parents are very happy. They're retired. They don't do a whole lot. They don't travel. They love gardening, like they're homebodies. I am not. Travel, adventure, personal development things, putting myself in those community and that stuff costs money. We're talking like many thousands of dollars. But if that's the lifestyle I want, I have to get clear, what is that? How much money will that take for me? And then I have to line up with it. So I think it's important to understand everybody's money mindset, desires, whatever, are going to be different. And so, how easy is it to get stuck in the comparison trap, right? Especially social media. So,
Mhm.
do you have any maybe examples or frameworks that can help somebody create clarity and vision? What is their lifestyle? How much money would they need?
Yeah. So I'm actually a financial planner in another business.
Okay.
And that's what I do there. So that's where you would work with a financial planner or a financial coach. And it's funny that you mentioned that your parents being retired, because when I work with people looking at retirement, I tell them that, people are like, well, how much money do I need to retire? And I tell them it's not a number that you need, it's a feeling that you need. So first of all, I need to know what your lifestyle is and what feeling you want to have when you're retired and what that looks like. And I can't tell you what your number is until I know what that is. So, and they're like, well, I never thought about it like that. They just want to know how much money they need. What do I need? What's the number? And I'm like, there's no number that for me to tell you. I need to know who you are and what you want to do. And I think the main thing, the overarching goal is that carefree feeling. You want to be carefree. So you want to have enough money that it pays, that all your necessities are covered, and that maybe you have a little bit of extra money to do whatever it is that you do. Maybe you need a lot of extra money to do whatever it is that you do. Maybe you want to travel the world. Then you need a lot of extra money. But the idea is that everybody's goal, pretty much, I would say, is to be carefree and know that you'll be able to live the life that you want when you retire without really having to worry. And so it's different for every single person. And like you said, it could be $1 million, it could be $10 million, it could be nothing. Maybe you just want to live off of your social security. You know what I mean? It's really truly your lifestyle. And then in working with younger people, I work with younger people who are the, also who are the people that, fix, with the fire. I'm trying to remember the acronym right now and I can't even, but it's retire early, right? And some of them are like, we don't spend anything. Like going to Starbucks is a treat for us. So they're like, that's our big outing. And so they're just like socking away. They got two incomes coming in. They're socking away their money because they want to retire early. And all they do is they go home and they go to Starbucks, but that's all they want to do. So that works for them. So it's really, you can't say what is anybody's idea of how to be financially successful because it's so individual.
I want to ask you, so if I'm kind of bringing this full circle, what I'm seeing is I think the idea of all of this is to help people get out of autopilot, like going through life's motions totally unaware. And we're inviting them, pause, take a pause, get organized, get clear, what's the life you want, and then it's the actions to do that. But I want to ask you, what do you believe is a key takeaway you want listeners to get?
I want them to know that whatever it is that they want from life, they have the ability to get it. So as long as they get their minds in the right place and they do the work, it does take work. It's not like it all just gets handed to you. You get your mind in the right place and you do the work. Take a single step every day. Some days you're going to take more, some days you're going to do less, but you have the ability to reach your goals and achieve more, achieve your dreams as long as you stick with it.
I have to share this with you. I think it's so timely. Last night I saw, I think it was on Pinterest. I love Pinterest, quotes and recipes and fitness. But there was a quote, what's one of the craziest things you've ever done for cash? And the comment was, worked a 9 to 5,
Oh.
right? And I
Mm-hmm.
know, I think the stats are somewhere out there like 76% of people are unhappy in their job. And again, like if you're I think that's a whole nother topic, but the idea is I find evidence of what other people have been able to do. I love Sarah Blakely as an example. Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx. She had a desire, a goal to support women. Now, it took a lot of effort as an entrepreneur and getting out there, but she is a self-made billionaire, right? And so here another example, Taylor Swift loves singing, and Taylor has put in a lot of effort and a lot of work. Another self-made billionaire getting to perform and like make people happy. So if there are billionaires, then you can do whatever the thing is you want to do, but it's also like that courage and taking that leap of faith to get started, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It is. It's having courage and having the faith that you can get it done. And then also learning. So you're gonna learn a lot as you go through your journey. And you have to be open to the internal growth too, because I think that's one of the big things is that for people to grow internally, you have to really have an open mind and listen and be willing to be coached to learn things. And that can be from books that you read. It can be from coaches that you hire. It can be from stuff you read to inspire you on the internet or whatever it is. But you have to be open to that and willing to expand your mind.
Well, and even for you, the idea of I don't think it's a late start, right? We're all on our own timeline, but you created your second act. You reinvented yourself at quote a later age. But I think
Yeah.
the idea is it's never too late to get started, so start now.
Right. It's never too late. It's never too early either. I've talked to people. I was like, oh, I don't need to worry about that yet. I'm still young. No, you do need to worry about that now because if you do it now, you're going to have such an easier time when you're older.
Right? Yeah,
Your future self will thank you.
set yourself up to win. What I'd love to do now is wrap up the interview. So I have a few rapid fire questions for you.
Sure.
What is a quote or motto that you live by?
Um, hmm. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that one. Um, Come back to it. I know I have one. I'm just not thinking of it.
Okay. On this topic, since today was very heavily about money and mindset, what is a book you're currently reading or would highly recommend on this topic?
So right now I'm actually reading the I don't know what the exact title of it. It's a 10x book, and it's Dan Sullivan and another person who is the Dan Sullivan's the creator of Strategic Coach, and it's about 10x. And he actually talks about the 80-20 rule in that book also. They talk about that, as a lot of other people that have written books do, but it's all about how to expand and grow your business. And I would recommend it. Some of my favorites though are the what is it? I'm just drawing a blank today. The 7 steps. What is it? It's got the 4 quadrants in it.
Is it the 7 habits of highly effective people?
Yes, that one. That's the one. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that one. I love that one. And then of course, Think and Grow Rich. You can read that over and over and get something different from it every time. Yeah.
Well, and even I think and Grow Rich for me was hard to read. I think it's just like the way the pages and stuff were set up. That's why I go to Google, find the summaries. But
Yeah, that's
really,
fine.
even then, the title alone is Thoughts Become Things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And you know what, I also like Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point, because that one was all about like people that had found unexpected success, and just like that there's just one tipping point where just everything went. And it really makes you think, like, you just keep doing your thing and you keep looking, you keep, making connections and doing the different, trying different things. And eventually, hopefully that tipping point comes and it just takes off. Kind of like a viral video or something.
How like overnight success took 7 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Final question. What advice would you give your younger self?
Oh my gosh, that's so easy. Think bigger. I had such a small world, and I didn't really know. I mean, I was smart and everything, and I knew I was smart, but I just didn't understand the bigger world. I wasn't exposed to very much. I was just kept very sheltered, I guess, in a sense. In other ways, I wasn't, but just think bigger, because that's what I do now. I just constantly challenge myself to think bigger. And how do I get to the next level of thinking bigger?
Love that. Such a great note to end on. Linda, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks so much for having me, Heather.